स्पेशल क्लस्टरिंग ऑफ एप्लीकेशन विद नॉइस। ओके, सो वैसे तो हमारा काम केवल इससे है। सो दिस इज अ डेंसिटी बेस्ड क्लस्टरिंग। ओके, सो डेंसिटी बेस्ड क्लस्टरिंग, so this is our thing, density based clustering, and ये इसका एप्लीकेशन है। सो दिस इज लाइक मेन थिंग जो डेंसिटी बेस के अंदर अलग से होती है। ओके, सो के मींस क्लस्टरिंग एंड हायरार्किकल क्लस्टरिंग। so okay, so the concept is same that we are trying to build a cluster based on the like similar properties and all, but डेंसिटी बेस के अंदर हम इसके ऊपर ज्यादा ध्यान देते हैं, नॉइस के ऊपर। ओके, सो लाइक दिस इज अ लाइक एल्गोरिदम जो स्पेशली डिजाइन की गई है टू लाइक हैंडल द नॉइस। ओके, सो टू हैंडल द आउटलायर्स। ओके, ठीक है। सो दिस इज अ डेंसिटी बेस्ड क्लस्टरिंग। अब आपके पास आई थिंक मैंने आपको ये लिखवाया था कि ये आपके 5 पॉइंट्स हैं जिनको आप लाइक 5 पॉइंट्स भी नहीं, 5 नहीं, आई थिंक 7 कॉन्सेप्ट्स हैं या 7 टर्मिनोलॉजीज हैं जो 7 टर्मिनोलॉजीज आपको हेल्प करेंगी टू बिल्ड दिस डेंसिटी बेस्ड क्लस्टरिंग। ओके, और उन 7 में से भी ये जो आपकी पहली 2 टर्मिनोलॉजीज हैं, एप्सिलॉन एंड मिनिमम पॉइंट्स, सो दिस आर योर हाइपर पैरामीटर्स। ओके, so these are your hyper parameters। Okay, so these are your hyper parameters। now okay, so now if I consider a data set, so data set is equals to d, जिसके अंदर आपके पास केवल इनपुट्स हैं xi, because अब हमारे पास yi नहीं है। okay, now so we अब देखो आपकी जो आप अब आपके पास 2 चीजें होती हैं यहाँ पे। आपको डीबी स्कैन के अंदर आप 2 कॉन्सेप्ट को लेके चलते हो। एक तो क्लस्टरिंग, ओके, जो कि आप के मींस और एग्लोमरेटिव या फिर हायरार्किकल क्लस्टरिंग के अंदर भी करते हो। दूसरी है नॉइस। ओके, सो यहाँ पे आपके पास ये जो आपका डेटा सेट है, इसको आप 2 रीजन्स में डिवाइड करते हो। सो यू हैव 2 रीजन्स। वन इज कॉल्ड डेंस रीजन, जो कि मैंने अभी पीछे लिखा हुआ है। सो डेंस रीजन, ओके, एंड अनदर रीजन इज योर स्पार्स रीजन। सो डेंस रीजन एंड स्पार्स रीजन। अब आपके डेंस रीजन में आपके क्लस्टर्स होंगे। ओके, सो डेंस रीजन में आप क्लस्टर्स अपने बनाओगे, एंड देन इन स्पार्स रीजन यू हैव अ नॉइस। ओके, फाइन। अब ये देखो ये चीजें दिखती कैसे हैं। सो डेफिनेटली वी आर गोइंग टू फाइंड आउट कि भाई डेंस रीजन किसको बोलेंगे या स्पार्स रीजन कैसे किसको बोलेंगे। बट अगर हम एक सिंपल सा आइडिया लें या सिंपल सा एग्जांपल लें, सो सपोज दिस इज योर क्लस्टर। ओके, एंड सपोज हमने 2 क्लस्टर बनाए हैं, जो भी हमारे डेटा पॉइंट्स हैं उस तरीके से मान लेते हैं कि ये रेड होंगे, ये ग्रीन होंगे। तो हमारे पास 2 क्लस्टर है, C1 एंड C2। सो दिस C1, so dense region belongs to this C1 and C2। okay, so dense region आपका ये C1 और C2 में होगा। so this is your dense region, this is your dense region। so dense region means जहाँ पे density ज्यादा है, जहाँ पे लोग ज्यादा है, so that is your dense region। and इनके बीच में ओके, सो इस तरीके से लाइक कुछ पॉइंट्स होंगे। ये कुछ पॉइंट्स नहीं है, ये नॉइस हैं, आपके आउटलायर्स है, ठीक है, जो कि आपके क्लस्टर से बाहर बिलोंग कर रहे हैं। सो दिस इज कॉल्ड अ स्पार्स रीजन। ये आपका स्पार्स रीजन है, ये आपका स्पार्स रीजन है, ये रीजन। ओके, और ये जो रीजन है आपका C1 और C2 का जो रीजन है, दिस इज योर डेंस रीजन। ओके, अब देखो कि ये डेंसिटी मेजर कैसे करते हैं, मीन्स आप कैसे पता लगाओगे कि डेंसिटी कितनी है, या फिर डेंस रीजन कहाँ पे लाई कर रहा है एग्जैक्टली, और स्पार्स रीजन कहाँ पे लाई कर रहा है एग्जैक्टली। तो इसके लिए अब आपको इन चीजों का सहारा लेना पड़ेगा जो मैंने आपको हाइपर पैरामीटर्स बताया, दैट इज कॉल्ड लाइक मीन पॉइंट्स एंड एप्सिलॉन। ओके, सो सबसे पहला जो क्वेश्चन अराइज होता है, दैट इज हाउ टू मेजर अ डेंसिटी, हाउ टू मेजर डेंसिटी, डेंसिटी को कैसे मेजर करेंगे। ओके, सो दिस इज अ वेरी फर्स्ट थिंग, दिस इज अ वेरी फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन। अब डेंसिटी को मेजर करने के लिए आपके पास वैसे तो आपके पास 2 हाइपर पैरामीटर्स हैं जिनकी आप हेल्प लोगे, और उसी के साथ साथ आप अपने टर्मिनोलॉजीज को भी निकाल लोगे यहाँ पे। तो जो आपके 3 टर्मिनोलॉजीज हैं उसको भी यहाँ पे आप निकालोगे। तो एंड दैट टर्मिनोलॉजीज इज योर की पॉइंट्स, वही की पॉइंट्स है जिससे हम अपना जो हमारी जो क्लस्टर्स हैं वो क्लस्टर्स ड्रॉ करते हैं. Okay, so one is mean point, then epsilon, then you have three more points. So core points, then border points, and then noise points. Okay. अब देखो आपका सबसे जो कोर आइडिया है, सो द कोर आइडिया वो हमने ऑलरेडी देख लिया कि आपका कोर आइडिया क्या है कि आप जब भी क्लस्टर ड्रॉ करोगे इन विद द हेल्प ऑफ डेंसिटी बेस्ड एल्गोरिथम, विद द हेल्प ऑफ डीबी स्कैन, आप जब भी क्लस्टर ड्रॉ करोगे तो आपके क्लस्टर्स दो रीजन में आएंगे. ओके, सो योर क्लस्टर इज गोइंग टू डिवाइडेड इनटू टू पार्ट्स. ओके, सो वन पार्ट इज कॉल्ड अ डेंस रीजन, अनदर पार्ट इज कॉल्ड अ लाइक अ स्पार्स रीजन. ओके, सो ये दो पार्ट्स में आपके, so this is the core idea of your DB scan. Okay, dense region and sparse region. Okay, और हमेशा याद रखना है आपको कि dense region is what. So बहुत अगर basic सी simple सी definition just in a single line if someone ask you, so dense region is a region which contains a cluster. Okay, so जहाँ पे आपके पास जो region cluster लिए रहता है that is a dense region, and the region which is having a noise which contains a noise that is called a sparse region. Okay, now अब आप डेंसिटी कैसे मेजर करोगे? So suppose if you want to density, if you want to if you want to find out a density at any point P, okay, so if you want to find out a density at point P, okay, so density at point P. Okay, so density कैसे निकालेंगे? So density at point P will be, अब आप इन दो चीजों को यूज करोगे, अब इन दो टर्मिनोलॉजीज को आप यूज करोगे. So ये चीजें लिखते हुए चलना. So density at point P is what? So number of points within a hypersphere. So यहाँ पे अब जो आपके सर्कल बनते हैं, this circles or this is called a hypersphere. Okay, so number of points within a hypersphere of radius एप्सिलॉन. और अब एप्सिलॉन आपकी कोई वैल्यू हो सकती है. सो एप्सिलॉन सपोज, तो जो सबसे आप ऑप्टिमल वैल्यू या फिर एक होता है ना कि मैनुअल वैल्यू हम जैसे सी की 1 लेके चलते हैं इन केस ऑफ एसबीएफ, सो उसी तरीके से आप एप्सिलॉन की वैल्यू मान लेते हैं 1 हो जाएगी. सो सपोज, सो जस्ट टेक 1 वैल्यू, बिकॉज अभी हमने हाइपर पैरामीटर के लिए कोई चीज टेक्निक नहीं देखी है जैसे हम के मींस के अंदर देख रहे थे एल्बो मेथड. ओके, so number of points within a hypersphere of radius epsilon. Okay, so of radius epsilon का मतलब epsilon की जो भी वैल्यू है, so of radius 1 around P. Okay, so suppose this is your point P, ये आपका कोई point है P. Now your radius is of like, so radius is of 1 centimeter of like 1 जो भी है इसकी unit, and this is your epsilon. और आप इसी के अराउंड आप क्या कर दोगे, you create a circle. ओके, अब आपसे क्या बोला है कि डेंसिटी P पे डेंसिटी कितनी होगी. तो सपोज यहाँ पे आपके पास, so this is your 1 point, this is 1 point. Now suppose you have 3 more points. Okay, so suppose you have 3 more points in this circle. So density इस सर्कल की या इस हाइपर स्फीयर की डेंसिटी क्या होगी, इस हाइपर स्फीयर की डेंसिटी होगी 4. ओके, सो दिस इज बिकॉज हमने लिखा हुआ है कि number of points within a hypersphere of radius epsilon around P. Okay, so this is this is a way to calculate the density. Okay, so this is our density is equals to 4. So आप इसको भी calculate करोगे. So along with this you have 4 points जो कि इस सर्कल के अंदर अलाई कर रही है, जिसकी रेडियस क्या है 1 सेंटीमीटर, एंड 1 सेंटीमीटर इज व्हाट, 1 सेंटीमीटर इज योर एप्सिलॉन. ओके, so this is a density. So this is the way to calculate a density. अब आपसे पूछा जाए कि अब आपको दिया जाए कि डेंस रीजन क्या है. सो अ डेंस रीजन क्या होता है? सो अब आप लिख लो, सो इनसाइड अ डेंस रीजन, मैं यहीं पे लिख नहीं रहा हूँ, आई एम जस्ट गोइंग टू डिफाइन, और आप उस चीज को लिख लो, अ हाइपर स्फीयर और अ सर्कल, ओके, यहाँ पे भी आप लिख सकते हो, सो अ हाइपर स्फीयर और अ सर्कल, so a hypersphere or a circle of radius epsilon, okay, that contains at least minimum points, mean points, okay. So now this is your one hyperparameter, और जैसा मैं बोला हूँ this is the second hyperparameter. So suppose हमने इस hyperparameter की वैल्यू मान ली 1 और इस hyperparameter की वैल्यू मान ली, so mean points, okay, so mean points of points, so suppose इसकी वैल्यू मैंने मान ली 4, okay. So now the dense region की क्या definition हो गई? A hypersphere or a circle of radius epsilon, जो कि हमारा 1 है, that contains at least mean points of points, okay, so mean PTS points, तो कम से कम at least वो 4 पॉइंट कंटेन करे, ठीक है, then it is called a dense region, okay. So suppose हमने यहाँ पे मान लेते हैं हम लोगों ने ये, so this is my hypersphere or a circle जिसकी जो रेडियस है वो 1 सेंटीमीटर है, and this is my point P, and around this point, so suppose I have one point, I have second point, and then we have maybe one more point, third point, and suppose 4 point, okay. So now we have what we have to, in total 5 points, okay, so including this we have in total 5 points, और हमारे पास कम से कम कितने पॉइंट होने चाहिए? 4 पॉइंट होने चाहिए, but and we have more than 4 points, so this is what we call, so this region is become a dense region, okay, so this region become a dense region. Similarly, so suppose again if you draw a circle, of radius 1 centimeter, okay, so epsilon is 1 centimeter, and now you have just 2 points, okay, you have just 2 points, okay, so you have just 2 points. अब आप अगर इसका total करोगे, so you have now 3 points, okay, so now you have 3 points, so 3 is lesser than 4, okay, so at least you should have at least 4 points to make it a dense region, okay. इसको dense region होने के लिए at least 4 पॉइंट होना चाहिए, because your mean point की जो वैल्यू है वो 4 है, बट यहाँ पे आपके पास केवल 3 पॉइंट है, so this region is called a sparse region, okay. So likewise a dense region you can write a definition for a sparse region, okay. So जैसे आपने dense region के लिए लिखा है a hypersphere or circle of radius epsilon that contain at least mean point, okay. So if the points are lesser than the mean points, so that region become a sparse region, okay. So this is what we call a sparse region, ठीक है, ये clear है यहाँ तक, okay. Now let's try to calculate the core point, border point, and noise point, okay. So just go along and just write down the definitions along with the understanding, okay. So core points, border point, and a noise point. Again, just take, you have a data set, then you have a mean PTS, and then you have a mean PTS, and along with this you have a epsilon. Okay, so now the core point is what? So suppose you have a point P, so your P is called a core point, okay. So this P is called a core point if, okay, so this P is called a core point, you can write a complete statement. I'm just going to write from if. So if P has more than or equals to a minimum point, okay, so if P has more than or equals to a minimum points, okay. So I think you are able to relate this thing with a dense region, okay. So core point means what? So this P is called a core point, okay. So this P is a core point, this P is not a core point, okay, because the P is called a core point only if the P has a P, the P is greater than or equals to mean point of point, Okay, again the same thing again. Let's for the completing a statement, you can write down that in an epsilon of region, in an epsilon of radius, sorry, in an epsilon radius. Okay, so in an epsilon radius around it, because epsilon is 1 na, around it, in an epsilon radius around it. Okay, so core point, you can say it is like core point. Core point कहाँ पे होगा? Core point is always, core point always belongs to a dense region. Okay, so I think this is very clear to you. So this P is called a core point. This P is not a called, this P is not a core point. Okay, so core point is always belongs to which region? Dense region. Okay, now write down for the border point, and I will show you that like I will show you with the diagram that what is a core, border, and a noise point. Okay, so write down in a border point. So again, the P, a point P is called a border point if P is not a core point. Okay, so very first thing. Okay, so you can write in like A and B. Okay, so you can write down that P, a point P is called a core point if, so the first if you can write down in A. Okay, so if P is not a core point. Okay, so if P is not a core point, okay, if P is not a core point, okay, so P core point कब नहीं होगा? P core point कब नहीं होगा? जब P के पास, जब P has, जब P के पास lesser than, जब P की जो वैल्यू होगी, it will be going lesser than mean point in epsilon radius around it. Okay, so P has lesser mean point in epsilon radius around it. Fine. So this is the very first thing. So किसी भी point को border point होने के लिए क्या जरूरी है कि भाई वो core point ना हो, और core point कब नहीं होगा? core point तभी नहीं होगा जब P की जो P के अंदर जो total points हैं वो कम होने चाहिए mean points से. Now the second thing. So and second is the important thing. Second thing. So and this P. Okay, so this small p means a border point. Your border point is belong to a. So this border point should belongs to a. और ये आप ऐसे बोल सकते हो, this should be equals to a neighborhood of a core point. Okay, so this should be a neighborhood of core point. Okay, पड़ोसी. Okay, so this, the border point should be a neighborhood of core point. Okay, so neighborhood आप कैसे पता कैसे लगाओगे भाई उसका पड़ोसी है, neighborhood है. Okay, so for that the distance between a small p and a greater p, I think you are able to relate. अगर आपको दिक्कत हो रही है तो you can change it, you can make it q. So small p is a border point, capital P is a core point. So the distance between a small p and a capital B should be lesser than or equals to a epsilon. Okay, so border point होने के लिए क्या जरूरी है? So border point होने के लिए, so a P is called as a border point if it is not a core point. And the second thing is the distance between a core point and border point should be lesser than epsilon. Okay, because this the border point belongs to a neighborhood. Okay, so it is or you can say border point is a neighborhood of a core point. Okay, now the third thing. Okay, third point. Okay, so that is a noise point. Okay, so noise point की definition बहुत ही easy है, बहुत clear है. Okay, so just you can write down a noise point. So noise point is what? Which is neither a core point nor a border point. Okay, which is neither a core point nor a border point. जो न की core point हो न ही border point है. Okay, and then again the same thing जो मैंने आपको बोली है. Again, make a star and write down one note. Okay, लिखो. Core point are at the core of the dense region. Core points are at the core of the dense region. Border points are at the border of the dense region. border point are at the border of the dense region and noise point are out of the dense region. और ब्रैकेट में लिख सकते हो inside the sparse region. Okay, now come on to this diagram to understand this thing more clearly. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So देखो, this is a core point. So this is a core point. Now if you try to measure the distance between so this is a core point. अब देखो core point क्यों है? Because so the minimum point is 4 and इस circle के आसपास आप देखो कितने points हैं? So 1 2 3 4 5 6 अगर आप इसको छोड़ भी देते हो so you have total 5 points, okay, which is greater than 4. Okay, so this point is called as a core point. Fine. Now this is a border point. Okay, so अगर आप border point के आसपास देखोगे so you just have 2 points and if you include this also so you have just 3 points which is lesser than mean point. So the very first thing is clear that this is not this is not a core point. This second point is not a core point. Now if you try to calculate the distance between this and this, so the distance will be lesser than epsilon. Okay, so it becomes a border point. Now if you try to check the third point, so again the very first thing, this should not be a core point. Okay, so you have just 2 values and if you include this also so you have just 3 values which is lesser than mean point. So this is not a core point. Now if you try to find out the distance, so distance is more than 1. Okay, so this distance, the distance between this and this is more than 1, the more than epsilon. So this reason this point is called a noise point. Okay, fine. Now this is again a very good a diagram to understand. Okay, so suppose epsilon is 10 and mean points is 4. Now with this image you are able to understand. Okay, so the core point, so core point is with green. Okay, so this is the original point and then we make a clusters. Okay, so we make a clusters. Now this is my dense region. Okay, so this green is my dense region because the density is more in this region, and so this is my core point. Then we have a border point which is very close to this core point. Okay, अगर आप ध्यान से देखोगे so these blue points are very close to green points. Okay, बिल्कुल बगल बगल में है. So these are called the border points. Now the noise, so noise are like away from this the core point. Okay, so these are the noise. Okay, so this is what a Dbscan. So in case of a Dbscan we are actually trying to make a cluster in this way. Okay, we are trying to make a cluster in this way, right? Okay, now there are two more concept or two more terminologies which we need to understand. One is called a density edge and another one is called density connected points. Okay, these two. Okay, let me discuss in our paper. Okay, and every one of you is clear with the core point, border point and the noise point. वहां तक clear है?
हाँ sir.
Okay, now okay, so this two is okay, so these are the last terminologies, and then we connect the nodes and create a Dbscan algorithm. So density edge and density connected points. Okay, so density edge or density connected points. So these are like these 2 points or these 2 concepts or terminologies are come from a graph theory. Okay, like a graph theory. Okay, so what is density edge? Or ये ऐसे like concepts and like very simple things, but just इस तरीके से बताए हुए हैं. So suppose this is like a P and this is a Q. Maybe these are my 2 points, and so the path. Okay, so this is what we call the path. Okay, so we have a point P maybe in some space, and then we have a Q in another space. then we try to make a connection in between P and Q. Okay, so we are trying to make a connection, we are trying to connect the nodes, or we are trying to make a bridge or a path in between P and Q. And this is what we call, this path is called a density edge point. Okay, so this is what we call a density edge. Okay, so density edge. So we are just trying to make a connection, and these 2 points. Okay, so the P and Q. Okay, so these 2 points P and Q is nothing but a core point. Okay, and this is the main thing which we need to remember. Okay, so this P and Q is nothing but a core point. Okay, so the path which trying okay, so which connect the 2 core points is called a density edge. Okay, and always remember the distance, a distance. Okay, so you can write in this way. So the distance between P and Q, distance between P and Q is lesser than or equals to epsilon. Okay, so this density edge is clear to you. Okay, so the path or the way which we trying to connect like a 2 core points, that is called a density edge. Okay, now what is density connected point? Okay, so this is called density edge. Okay, this is called density edge. Now if I talk about density connected, okay, so again you can make this thing. Okay, so this is Q, and here you have maybe a P. Now again you are trying to make a path, again you are trying to make a path to connect the nodes. Okay, so again you are trying to make a path to connect, or you are trying to make a bridge in between P and Q. Okay, so in this way, in this way. Okay. So this is a path. Okay, this is the path, and you know that this is what this is a this is a density edge. This is a density edge, and maybe in between you have maybe 3 points, P1, P2, and P3. And always remember, all these 3 points, all these 3 points are termed as a core points. Okay, these 3 points are also a core point. Okay, so now you are not able to connect the like 2 core point, or you are not able to connect a path, you are not able to make a like a path directly. Okay, you need some kind okay, so you need like another way, you need like आपको बीच में, or like you need some more help, or maybe like और सारे चाहिए to make a bridge. Okay, so that is that connection, that connected point, like this P1, P2, and P3. So these along with the core point, they are also called as a density connected points. Okay, so you can write down that 2 points P and Q. Now, okay, so in this place, this P and Q are the density edge, but now in this place it becomes a density connected points. Okay, so you can write down that 2 points P and Q are said to be a density connected points, are said to be a density connected points if there exists a path, if there exists a path if there exists a path formed by, if there exists a path formed by density edges connecting points P and Q. If there exists a path formed by density edges connecting points P and Q. Okay, fine. And I think the same thing is written over here also. Okay, so if you're not clear, you can write down. Yeah, so अलग तरीके से लिखा हो, but like this is the same thing, not different at all. Okay, now it's time to, okay, so fine, we okay, so now we are able to understand all the terminologies. Okay, so we are able to understand like what are the different terminologies are there. So I think in total we have like 7 terminologies. Now it's time to like connect the nodes, or like to like make a connection between all the terminologies, and find, and then like create this algorithm. Okay, so if you are trying to like मैंने इसीलिए आपको दिया था, like if you're trying to read that PDF also. So suppose if you're trying to read from here also Dbscan algorithm, so yeah, you are able to understand because there are like just 4 or 5 points. But yeah, okay, so okay, but you can take it in this way. Okay, fine. Now, so the very first thing which you need to have. Okay, so to make this algorithm, okay, you need to have two things. Okay, so you need to have your two hyperparameters जो आपको choose करना पड़ेगा, because right now we don't have any mathematics to calculate these things. So suppose these things are given. Okay, so suppose these things are given. So you have a mean point. So suppose you have a number for mean point, and you have some number for epsilon. Okay, so maybe a 4 or 1, the same thing. Then the first step. Okay, so the very first thing which you need to do is, okay, so suppose like for all xi's. Okay, so for all xi's which belongs to like maybe our data set. Okay, so which belongs to our data set. So what we need to do is, so the very first thing which you need to do is, so you need to label each point as score point, border point, and noise point. Okay, so you need to label, लिख लो, you need to label each point as score point, border point, and noise point. Okay, हर point को आपको labeling करनी है, and then you need to make like one point as a core point, another point as a border point, and the next point as a noise point. Okay, इस तरीके से. So suppose okay, so suppose you have maybe, okay, so suppose you have like x1 maybe a core point, and then you can assign x2 maybe a border point, then you can assign like x3 maybe a noise. Okay, and in this way. Okay, so maybe again like x4 you can assign as border, then x5 maybe a core. Okay, in this way. Okay, so you need to label each point as a core point, border point, and noise point. And I think you know that आप किस तरीके से assign कर पाओगे. Okay, because आपको core point की definition पता है. Okay, so core point is the one अगर उसके अगर so because your epsilon is given, your mean points is given, so you are able to check whether this point is a core point or not. Okay, so you need to assign, you need to label each point. Okay, so जितने भी data points हैं आपके पास, you need to label each point as a core point, border point, and a noise. Okay, so this is the very first thing. Okay, this is the very first step. Okay, now so you can assign by yourself, maybe by applying your own mathematics. And suppose if you don't want to apply, if you don't want to do like that large mathematics, अरे यार एक सेकंड गाइस, just connect in 30 seconds again with the same as in a same class. Okay, मेरे ख्याल से इसका सब्सक्रिप्शन खत्म हो गया है. मैं खुद ही ऐड कर दे रहा हूँ, मैं खुद ही ऐड करूंगा तो शायद चला जाएगा. 1 सेकंड.
हेलो सर.
हेलो.
हाँ सर, क्या हुआ?
मैं बोल रहा हूँ वापस से कनेक्ट करना आप.
अच्छा, अभी तुरंत?
तुरंत.
ठीक है सर.